dating situation. The event is canceled. I can't host an event with 3 guys.
45% of women ages 25 to 44 will be single by 2030. Doesn't that mean a whole lot of men will be single too?
I'm suffering. I know that I'm struggling. I know that I need a man, but I can't let my sisters down.
There was no loving husband to be there for us.
But where is my man at?
He's living his best life.
That is the, quote, male loneliness epidemic.
Nonsense.
78% are women.
Men feeling entitled to the opinion that they want children when all that they have to do is orgasm.
Has the highest search popularity with 1.55 million search popularity. When I tapped on the struggling with loneliness search popularity here, we can see that in the past 7 days, it's gone up by 344%. My mind immediately jumped to what all the news articles in mainstream media are pointing to as a big problem in our country, and that is the, quote, male loneliness epidemic. But see, something that this app also lets you do is you can look at the demographics of who's searching this, and you'll be surprised to see that of the searches, 78% searching that they're struggling with loneliness.
The numbers. So out of the percentages, 78% of the searches were ladies, 19% of the searches were men. People that said they're struggling with loneliness. Let me rewind that back one more time to make sure that's what she said.
To what all the news articles in mainstream media are pointing to as a big problem in our country, and that is the, quote, male loneliness epidemic.
Nonsense.
But see, something that this app also lets you do is you can look at the demographics of who's searching this, and you'll be surprised to see that of the searches, 78% searching that they're struggling with loneliness on this app are women, females, with 96% of them being here in the United States. And it looks as though that it's mostly millennials and Gen Z.
All right, so we see something here. The young people, they're kids. 18 to 25, 25 to 35, 35 to 45. So from 18 to 45, they're lonely. They're struggling. The older ladies, they're just old. The young ladies, they're young. That's good to know.
This data right here flies in the face of what all these intellectuals are writing in their articles about the quote-unquote male loneliness epidemic. Are we going to see a slew of articles now concerned about millennial and Gen Z women? Of course not. No. Society just won't care enough. And to anyone who's feeling lonely, the first thing I would say to you is, do you understand your loneliness?
No. I understand what she's saying. It's not that society won't care enough. It's that society, the feminist narrative, won't push it. They wouldn't dare push it because that means everything they said failed. Everything they had in store for women failed. It's leaving them lonely.
Loneliness. Have you asked your loneliness why it's there? I know that sounds weird, but for me, I used to feel lonely even in a room full of people. And I became okay with my loneliness so much so that I started to wish that I was invisible. It didn't matter that I was a mom to a healthy, beautiful child because that didn't heal my loneliness. My loneliness was there regardless. Because for me personally, my loneliness was rooted in my lack of self-love, in my lack of self-esteem. And so your loneliness may be rooted in something different than how mine was. And that's why I always say, figure out where.
I gotta say this, right? Well, ladies have to realize, what do you see men getting taught? You see men getting taught having things to release their stress, right? A lot of men are playing games and going to the gym, and a lot are playing games and going to the gym. A lot of playing games while they're working out, some of them in the gym. Men are doing their own thing, walking their dogs, all kinds of things. It's not lonely. But you ladies have to understand, men grow up like this. It was times I was lonely when I was in the West, but I wasn't lonely. I was working.
Your loneliness is rooted in. I looked within myself 5 years ago, and that's when I came to the conclusion that my loneliness, my discontentment was rooted in a lack of self-love and self-esteem. And that's when I decided once and for all, I was going on a self-love journey. And I didn't have anyone guiding me. I just said, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other, and I'm just going to do the next best thing I know how. And when all else fails, I'm going to tell myself everything will be okay. And I started out my self-love journey just by looking at myself in the mirror and telling myself, you're beautiful, you are worthy of love, you are a kind person, you're a good-hearted person. And at first it felt so uncomfortable. I was clearly lying to myself in the mirror. It felt uncomfortable for about a month, but I kept at it. And eventually that discomfort that I felt when I would tell myself nice and kind things in the mirror, it went away. Within about 3 or 4 months, I noticed that the patterns in my brain, they shifted. The voices in my head, they weren't so mean anymore. If you struggle with that, I challenge you to just go into the mirror, and even when it feels like your skin is crawling, even when it feels so uncomfortable, like you're lying to yourself, I want you to gaslight yourself and look in the mirror and tell yourself, even if you don't believe it, you are beautiful, you are powerful, you are worth it, you are wonderful, you deserve love, and you deserve to love yourself. I was miserable for so long. And I completely transformed my life 5 years ago when I decided to finally choose to accept myself, to love myself, to befriend myself. And that loneliness, that's a part of my past. I have less people in my life now than I did then, and I don't feel that loneliness anymore. So if you were like me and your loneliness was rooted in a lack of self-love, in a lack of self-esteem, then comment down below, because this is something that I love to talk about, because when I tell you, I don't even recognize my life anymore.
Yeah, I think she should talk more, even especially because that was a long speech. I think she should talk about her weight loss journey. That's very important. I'm sure she does, but that's very important. A lot of people need to hear that, because the reason a lot of people feel that way in their heads, they're not in good shape. And there, you weren't in good shape. That's why you felt that way. And that's happening in so many parts of America. You have fast food capitals where the whole town is mostly fast food. Actually, I said it wrong. Every town, fast food. 5 blocks later, fast food. Where I'm at now in the Philippines, fast food, fast food, fast food, fast food, but they have smaller portions. This is where it's so criminal what they're doing to people in the U.S. But
If you take a look at the screen right here,
yeah, things need to change. But as she pointed out, who's lonely? The ladies.
But where is my man at? Where is my man at? Where is my man at? I hate to make my entire life about relationships, but where is my man at?
He's living his best life, staying away from entitled modern women such as yourself.
Entitled and not right for a man to have an opinion about wanting children. I'm not talking about a couple coming to the conclusion that they want children together. That is very different. I am talking about men feeling entitled to the opinion that they want children when all that they have to do is orgasm, and then somebody else bears all of the health risks, the responsibility, everything. And they are walking around not with a desire to have like children with their partner. They just want children. And they're like, are you going to sacrifice your body for me? You good with that? They expect somebody to do that for them. To walk around this earth wanting children when your only contribution is orgasm, and you are expecting somebody to bear all of the responsibility for this and all of the risks, and you're just expecting somebody to give this to you, that is the most entitled, privileged thing I can ever think of. If the situation was reversed, women would not be doing this.
So remember, I don't know, those of you who watched another show that we did recently, where I talk about how they're coming for the dads. Hmm. So it's not just about now, men hating where they hate, the guy that they are messing with, or they hate the guy that they're, in a relationship with, or they're hate. Then it shifted over to like the hating of the husbands, right? Now it's the dads, right? Ooh, can't stand the dads. So she's actually saying she can't stand that you guys out there, because you can't biologically carry a child like we can, you're not entitled to say that you want children. Can you imagine the psychosis going on in this woman's head? Let's just think about it for a second. Now, why is this happening? So there's an important point here. These women have been trained, they've been brainwashed, and they've been trained to hate their own biology, right? They're resentful of their own biology. Now, why is that? Because they've been told that their biology turns them into a slave, right? Oh, you're just going to be a housekeeper and a maid. That their biology is somehow enslaving them to the life of mom, which is going to keep them from working and keep them from making money. They bought into all these talking points that somehow, because they have a female anatomy, female biology, that they are now limited in capacity, that they are less than, that they are weaker, all these things. Now, we are weaker in many respects, but there's nothing to be embarrassed about, right? We aren't as strong as men physically. We all know that. Rational people can just 2 and 2 is 4, honey. But they're resentful of that reality. So now they feel like guys have no opinion, right? They're not allowed to have an opinion about anything that they can't do themselves. So I would ask her also, does that flip the other way too? Right? So should women not be allowed to have an opinion on things they can't do themselves? Because last I checked, all of you ladies want to have an opinion about everything. You're entitled to have an opinion about everything, but a guy's not entitled to say, hey, I want to be a dad. They want to take everything away from these guys because they're they're resentful of their own biology, and B, they're jealous. They're jealous. These are women that are so die hard to compete with men. They're so die hard to do everything that a man can do just the way a man can do it, even if their own biology tells them they can't do that. They're so angry about that. They're so twisted about that it's coming out in these bizarre ways, right? It's almost like the implication is that guys could also carry a child, but are just choosing not to. And instead, they want you to do it. Guys can't carry children. Honey, the beauty of this is that men and women are supposed to come together, right? And it's a beautiful thing. Any good man out there, any quality man out there will say that a woman's ability to have a baby, to grow a person inside her body, is the most incredible, magical superpower thing that a woman can do. They honor it. They respect it. They love it. They love their women even more. They find, when their wives become pregnant, they find it super sexy and yummy, right? You're growing a child. It's amazing, right? Any good quality man is going to acknowledge that. But a lot of these women, they see it as, ugh, this is baggage. This is going to weigh me down. Because they've been brainwashed. They've been told time and time again that all of these things that make them a woman are weak, are less than, and they have to ditch all of them in order to be able to compete with a man and a man.
Dating situation, the event is canceled. We did have 100 female applicants and we had like 3 male applicants. I waited it out to see if anybody else would apply. I did have people message me, but they just didn't apply. And I can't host an event with 3 guys. There's going to be nothing like the female loneliness epidemic that you're going to see with this generation of women when they hit the 40s. It's going to be out of control.
Many years from now, there is going to be a quiet crisis.
It's happening now.
Loneliness in women, especially. Not because women failed, not because they weren't capable or intelligent, but because...
The wild thing, they said 2030, but it looks like it's happening now. It looks like it's been happening from the statistics, but what do I know?
They were handed a script or a blueprint that left out the consequences.
There's a saying in America that you convince the lowest white man that he's better than a black man, and he'll let you rob him blind or some shit like that. I can't remember the exact quote. Well, my spin on it is, if you convince an entire generation and society of women that their vagina is worth more than it actually is, and convince them that their narrative and their delusions are actually valid, this is what it creates. There's no such thing as male loneliness epidemic. There's no such thing as a female loneliness epidemic. All of us, we're all lonely. Even the reason I uploaded that first one is to show you that even in the Muslim community, where you think, oh, it's getting bad out there, we have bought into a system that was purposely created to divide us, because the system needs us like this to survive. The system needs, do you understand right now is, it's hard to have these conversations.
See, what he's talking about is a system, and it's not a system. What's really happening is literally God versus Satan, and Satan is using the female to break things up, because it works like Satan, woman, man, which you see so many ladies trying to do. In God's way is man, woman, child. The man is the umbrella of the family, and God builds the umbrella. This man doesn't understand. Because why? Because he probably doesn't believe in God. I don't know. I don't know him.
Without coming off as sexist, misogynist, because right now, one of the main issues we have is we oversaturated the market. There was a time when men could afford two families, and like people used to say, there was not one family asking where all the money going. There was enough money to take care of both families, but they convinced us that was a bad idea. They convinced us that community is bad. They convinced us that you should be alone. They convinced us that I could do bad all by myself. And now look at it, men have been hurting. Men are hurting. But the difference is men have been wired by society to shut shit about men's problems. No one gets men's issues. Women, on the other hand, society bends backwards for women. So you have a lot of women that are feeling like this. It is like this. A lot of women, but that script that you were handed, if you go against the script, everyone sees you as a, there's no male loneliness epidemic, there's no female loneliness epidemic. There's a human loneliness epidemic. And if we don't collectively figure our shit out of this funk, we will fail. And I'm trying to say the people in power are still doing arranged marriages. There's everything they told us not to do, they're doing it, and they're ruling us.
You know, what people don't realize, there won't be another generation. There won't. I give it a good 4 or 5 years, right, before the lid pops, and for things to go haywire, and that's going to be it, all topsy-turvy. And the people that understand know what I'm talking about, but I'll be talking about it on my next channel I do, because it's needed, because there's not going to be more time. Like everybody, we need to make sure the Muslims are okay, or we need to make sure the blacks are okay, or we need to make sure this person, the whites, are okay. And all of that is nonsense. It's literally about God and about Satan. Same thing with this. You better get right with God.
This epidemic, sweetheart, I hate to be the bearer of news, and I'm going to hold both your hands, Will, between a napkin when I say this. The female loneliness epidemic has been going on for thousands of years. See, here's the thing. Because we were looked at as a commodity, as property for so long, there was no loving husband to be there for us. We were always lonely. I'm not saying every marriage in history has been that, and I'm not saying that every marriage currently happening right now is that. I'm married. I'm very happily married, and I am not lonely right now, but I have been in the past. And it took a lot of work from my husband not to make me feel like a single mother. Yeah, so the female loneliness epidemic has been happening despite having men around, despite being married. And many women are finding out that it's better to be alone than lonely.
GM Marpet, do you honestly not know that women have been living lonely for centuries? For a huge chunk of human history, we didn't have any say over if, when, or who we married. And for those who lived in traditional households where mom handled all of the housework and the kids, and dad went to work and came home and did nothing, yeah, loneliness was a thing. Just because you have a warm body in the bed next to you and someone sitting in a chair in a living room ignoring you doesn't mean you're not lonely. Well, where did they stay? Easy. They had no other choice. They had no other choice. Last October of 2024, we hit the 50th anniversary of a very important law. When this law was passed, I was 6 years old. Because my birthday and the passing of the law happened in the same month. I was 6 years old when a law was finally passed that would have allowed my mother to rent an apartment without a man signing off on the lease. Now, my mom was almost 23 when I was born. So my mom was in her 30s before the law finally said, yeah, banks have to start treating you like a human being, equal to the men in your community. Prior to that law passing, women could not have a credit card without a man's name on it. Banks could refuse to give a woman a loan for a car or a home or a business without a man co-signing on it. Apartment complexes could refuse to rent to women if there wasn't a man to sign on the lease with her. Women stayed in lonely marriages because they had no other option. Women couldn't have bank accounts.
I had to challenge her. Why? She's wallowing on how things used to be, right? So we came from that to ladies took advantage of the system. What do you have to say about right now? What about what's happening right now? Why do passport bros have to exist? Why do men have to travel to other countries to get a female? Because you ladies and men, you look like a man. You ladies argue like men. Hardcore feminists. The last lady, she has a husband, but she's a hardcore feminist. Men are done with this.
Like, everyone is single. There's a huge number of women. A huge percentage of women that are single. A huge percentage of men that are single. And everyone is living their little loneliness epidemic. And then, when I go outside, the only thing I see is parents with their kids. Like, I never see single people just doing their own thing. They are very young. Like, see people, like young people working at cafes on their laptop. I do that too. But in general, I don't see a lot of single people outside. And I'm like, where are all these super crazy, lonely people that everyone talks about? Because I do go out. I'm not even talking about...
You're talking to men.
I'm not even talking about men or me wanting to find a partner. No, just in general, like friends, single way to hang out with. And if you're a woman, are you experiencing similar? Wouldn't you love to connect women? Not just men, like other women. And please.
That's happened a lot of dating events. Ladies are connecting there.
Don't be rude. I know that people are usually like, you're alone, you will be forever alone with your cat. Yeah, I know. I am one of those. I am the woman with her cats that will be forever. But still, I am a human. I like some human connection. And if it's not possible for me, that's fine. Okay, if my destiny is to rot forever, it's fine. You know what? Roast me.
Yeah. She bit the pill. The same pill they all bit.
And I keep getting, why are so many women single in 2025?
I know that I'm suffering. I know that I'm struggling. I know that I need a man, but I can't let my sisters down. I can't let my sisters know that I feel like I'm drowning without a man.
Telling you, that singleness only hits you at night. When you're at the gym, you don't even care about being single. That's not even on your mind. But when you pull up to the house at night and you get in that bed alone, that's when you be like, I really wish I could cuddle up with somebody.
45% of women will be single by 2030. You've probably seen this stat floating around. Morgan Stanley published it. Media ran with it. And depending on where you saw it, the framing was either this is empowering or this is a crisis. But here's what I want to talk about today. When I first saw this headline, the first thing I thought was, why are we only talking about women? If 45% of women ages 25 to 44 will be single by 2030, doesn't that mean a whole lot of men will be single too? Like, mathematically. And yet, when I searched for articles about this, I found a very interesting pattern. Articles about single women use words like empowered or independent, choosing themselves.
There's something so refreshing about being single. Not single, but I want to date single. Not single with a roster, but avoidant single. And you sleep like an infant knowing you're not getting cheated on. We love it over here.
Articles about single men use words like lonely, struggling, need to do better. Same situation, right? But completely different framing. And there's one number buried in all of this that genuinely shocked me. We'll get to that in a bit, though. So today, I want to look at the actual data. No spin, no gender war, just the numbers. Because I think what's really happening is way more important than the narrative. You can't change the math without changing the culture. And that's exactly what's happening. Let's get into it. First, let's understand where this number comes from, okay? Morgan Stanley published a report called Rise of the She Economy back in 2019. They projected that 45% of prime working age women, that's ages 25 to 44, would be single by 2030. That's up from 41% in 2018. The reason they cited were straightforward. Women are delaying marriage. Women are delaying childbirth. Women in their 50s and 60s are divorcing at higher rates than before. And more women are simply choosing to stay single. All of that is true, but here's where it gets interesting. Pew Research found that 1 in 4 40-year-olds in America have never been married. That's the highest share on record. The Institute for Family Studies project studies that 1 in 3 adults today will never marry by age 45. Not divorced, not widowed, never married at all. And here's the stat that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. In 1980, 90% of 35-year-old men were married or had been married at some point. Today, that number is 60%. So we went from 9 out of 10 men being married at 35 to just 6 out of 10. That's a 30-point drop in one generation. When men fall out of the marriage system, nobody writes think pieces about them. They just label it as failure and move on. Something shifted. And I don't think it's as simple as men need to do better or women are finally free. I think there's something structural happening that affects everyone. Generation after generation,
Feminism.
men are being told they're the problem, even when the math shows the opposite. The dating app math. Let's talk about how people actually meet now. According to Stanford research, about 60% of couples now meet online. Dating apps aren't a niche thing anymore. For most people under 40, they're the default. So, what does a dating experience look like? SwipeStat analyzed data from over 3,700 Tinder profiles and found something pretty striking. 67% of dating app users are men.
Wow.
33% are women. That's a 2-to-1 ratio. Think about what that means. In a room of 100 dating app users, 67 are men competing for the attention of 33 women. Even if every single woman matched with someone, 34 men would still be left with nothing before you even factor in preferences, attraction, or compatibility. It's like walking into a crowded marketplace where everyone is yelling, but only a handful of voices ever get heard. Here's where it gets more interesting. Women have an average match rate of 30%. Men have an average match rate of 2.6%. Let me say that again. Women match with roughly 1 in 3 profiles they like. Men match with roughly 1 in 38. Some studies put male match rates even lower, around 0.6% on Tinder specifically. That's 1 match for every 140 right swipes. Apps turn dating in.
You know, it's a funny thing. You sit there and you watch what men say, right? You know what men say? They're happy with that. You know how men carry it? I take what I can get. You know what's happening? You know what men are saying? There's always somebody giving it up. That's how bad it's gotten. So it's time to look in the mirror, ladies, and say, wait a minute. Why are men saying there's always someone giving it up? Because it's true. You ladies have to take pride in yourselves. You take a lot of pride and make sure you give it up and get that bag. Take pride in yourself. And it's time to do better. Because you can do this all day to a man, but we're okay. We're fine being alone. You see it. I said it about 15 times. A lady, Nora Vincent, became a man for a year and killed herself. We lived this 40 years. I've been living this for 45 years. Other men have been living it longer. Some guys living it for 20 years. We're fine. We're going to be okay. Other than that, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Peace out. See you next video.
What we do in life echoes in eternity.
The Iceman is coming!
Winter is here.